nothing but love, but mine are the best. We've been through it all, went to war when duty called, never left a man behind. We move as one is super strong. I don't want followers, that implies I'm the leader. I'm not the captain, I just gave them something they can believe in. I hold the lamp in the darkness, but they're the light that I needed to see the road that we walk in between the angels and demons. And my fans have my back. Hate us if your feelings don't like facts. And my fans will fight back. Beat you with the keyboard you've been using to write back. I guess we need each other like both sides of the battery. We the army, we the homies, we the gang, we the cavalry. We're brothers and sisters, we hold it down like we gravity. Can't nobody break the bond that made us all family.
Me and my fans, we don't care what anybody say. Middle fingers to whoever in the way, man. Me and my fans, we gon' be together till the grave. It's a game till forever and a day, man. Me and my fans, we don't even trip in the hate. We got all the fuck in our veins, man. Me and my fans,
we the hangover gang. Gang, 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 gang.
Oklahoma weather can dish out some of the worst punishment in the world. Hi everyone, I'm meteorologist Tuttle. But now you can fight back by installing Class 4 impact-resistant shingles from Ferguson Roof Systems. These shingles can withstand large hail, heavy rain, and hurricane-force winds, all while keeping your home safe and dry. And the best part? This upgrade is completely free for many homeowners. So call today to start reaping the benefits these Class 4 shingles bring, including a discount on home insurance. Only at FergusonRoofSystems.com.
Hey everyone, meteorologist Tuttle back with you again. It is about 9:40, so we're going to get down to business here tonight. We got a big storm system coming on in, so I'm glad you're here. Make sure you like and share this video with your friends and family as we speak. Just hit the share button while you're watching it. It'll show up on your timeline, and everybody else can see what in the world are you watching. You can say, I'm watching AT. I'm getting the real deal, the scoop. It's funny as and I get this a lot from messages, and I got one today, is a lot of you guys will watch, all the TV guys and gals, all right? So you'll watch them and you'll see what they say. And then you'll say, but what does Aaron say? So I think that's cute. I think it's adorable, but it means that you know what's up. So I don't lead you astray. I tell it straight like it is, and I show you the data to prove it. So you always come to the right place when you come here to AT's Weather, get the lowdown on the winter storms or severe weather, that kind of deal. Speaking of severe weather, we had a couple of tornado warnings last night, but as far as I know, nothing official came out of those. We looked at them on radar, did some analysis, and just didn't quite look right to me, but we tracked them anyway. And so we'll do that again next time we have a severe weather event that has potential for tornadoes. Meanwhile, let's see real quick on Facebook. I'm going to post the link. If you want to get into the know, which means Facebook doesn't notify you, so you can click this and I will notify you directly when I go live so you don't miss an episode. You guys on Twitter, thanks for checking in. I see you watching here for tonight. YouTube as well. As always, you guys are leaving your comments, so I appreciate that. And becoming a member. I see you had a couple new members here this week, so I appreciate that as well. And I know there's some doctor appointments scheduled out there. Jim, I see your comments. So that is an issue. So I get it. And the doctor's offices, trust me, they get it. And they're just like, are you serious, Aaron? I'm like, just, don't shoot the messenger. All right, so let's see. Out there right now, of course, no snow to speak of, no sleet to speak of, and no freezing rain to speak of. It's quiet for now. Clouds are building out there. Temperatures were 21 degrees here in my backyard, so it's a very cold. And it was a cold day today, as a matter of fact. We didn't really warm up a whole lot. We saw some low 30s out there, a little bit of sunshine, and that was about it. Okay, so let's get on down to business here. We did have a little bit of rain last night. If you were in Oklahoma City, you even heard a little bit of thunder. The cold front lit up like a Christmas tree from Tulsa down here to Oklahoma City. We squeezed out some snow flurries out of it on the eastern side early this morning, and that turned into some freezing drizzle once you got up around the Tulsa area. We talked about that last night in the broadcast. Meanwhile, some very good rainfall, even some flash flood warnings at one point issued down here in eastern Oklahoma for up to 3 inches of rainfall in that area. So everything turned out as predicted and planned down there across southeastern Oklahoma. So enough about that. Let's go on to the next deal. And let's load up this page here, and this is our water vapor channel. So the upper level low is spinning around out here, and out ahead of it is the Pacific moisture that runs in from southwest to northeast. And within this, are these little upper level disturbances that will rotate through. And we have two main ones that's going to come in through for tonight into tomorrow morning for the first round, and the secondary round will follow suit very quickly on its heels. So that is the overall picture in the atmosphere. Now, when we speak about the atmosphere, check this out. Meteorologist buddy of mine in Tulsa posted this on Twitter. I saw it, I loved it. I said, I got to get that. I said, send me the link, brother. And he did. So thank you, Steve. Remember we talk about the Weather Service that issues the balloons, the little soundings that we show up? And you see me show you the forecast data from that, those little profiles, vertical profiles of the atmosphere. So this is a picture of what it looks like when those soundings go up in the air and they launch. So this one launched in northern Oklahoma, and it drifted as it went up with height over here to southeast Kansas. This one launched in here in Oklahoma City, in the east side of town from the Weather Service there. And that drifted all the way up into western Arkansas. And what happens is they go up and they pop. And then they stop traveling, obviously, and then they come straight down. So we can now track those positions. I did not know we could do that. It was really cool. So I wanted to see what that was like. Now, what is a sounding? Those balloons, this is what it puts out. It's a vertical profile of the atmosphere. The red is the temperature line. The green is the dew point. At this point, this is a look at Oklahoma City. When these two lines are far apart, bone dry. You will not get any precipitation in this environment. So we have a lot to overcome tonight and tomorrow. And that's why we'll see some lift in the model data I'll show you. But it takes a while to get this to moisten up and to get going. But what you do see is this very stout warm nose. So this little vertical line here at 0, this is the freezing line of the atmosphere. If you're on this side, the plus side, that equals rain. If you're on the negative side over here, that's the cold side, which equals snow and or sleet and or freezing rain. So we are in a pattern here with the depth of the Arctic air to be in the sleet side here in Oklahoma City. All right, so let's look at how that looks like. And that's why, because a lot of times I'll show you the forecast for this, and I'll show you how these lines move, and that dictates what kind of precipitation we're going to get out of the system. So I always think that's pretty cool. Temperatures out there currently, refresh this here, we're into the low 20s across the state with the 30s down south and east. So the freezing line, this little yellow line, has almost cleared Oklahoma into the teens, into the panhandle. That's just disgusting, right? All right, let me go the mediogram generator. I don't want to waste any time with this, other than I did highlight this a moment ago, and I will show you for my friends down in Dallas. We'll talk about you. This is the hourly precipitation accumulation forecast, up around 0.3 on average for the model data. Now that's 0.3 of trouble. What is 0.3? That's enough to cause power problems and some road closures. So hint, hint for Dallas-Fort Worth. Now the ice, let's just call it the freezing rain, or maybe even ice storm warning kind of a deal. If you want to get too technical, the criteria to reach that is quite high in the purple area and the red area across Arkansas, Missouri, out here in the southeastern Oklahoma, where amounts will be significant enough to cause power outages. So if you want to know, where are the best shots of power outages, they're going to be in this darker colored red shading, and also probably in the yellow shading at that across that part of the state, tipping down into North Texas. When we break that down, from Dallas, so this is where the trouble spots will be around the Metroplex northward into southern Oklahoma, central Oklahoma, then out to Tulsa, eastern Oklahoma especially, and then here we go to northern Arkansas, and here we go to Missouri. So you see a lot of colors on the map. You see the little scale, the legend. It equals moderate to major to extreme impacts. They all say the same thing, which is roughly, and let me get really close to read because I can't read this. It's like two size. Extensive property damage likely. Life-saving actions needed will likely result in major disruptions to daily life. Hint, hint, winter storm, stay out of it if you can. All right, that's really all you need to know and to take home from that one. All right, let's go into how things evolve and why we have such a mess with the winter mix. When we look at the ensemble data for the short-term high-resolution models, we'll show you how things evolve. So in this chart, the green, of course, is plain old-fashioned rain. The orange you're going to focus on is sleet, and where you see the little darker red, that is going to be some freezing rain mixed in. So if we go through time here, this is tonight, now, currently. As we expand into daybreak hours in the morning, look how that sleet has moved into central southern Oklahoma, all the way down to Texas. This is where the temperature profile in the atmosphere is cold enough for this type of precipitation. Now, some areas won't quite get this at this time, but this is where the area outline if precipitation were to fall, this is the form it's going to be in. So that's sleet across the body of Oklahoma. There will be a little bit of freezing rain mixed in with this first wave southeast, but it's mostly going to be a lot of sleet, which is some good news, again, when it comes to power outages. And this goes through tomorrow. And then we have our secondary wave that develops. Look at all that freezing rain down in Texas probabilities. And that kind of runs right up I-35 and then on into southeastern Oklahoma and Arkansas during the day on Thursday. So you can see the snow, which is blue, is all up to our north and west as far as the profiles being cold enough for that. So what the take home was, we have that atmosphere that's more conducive for sleet here in the body of Oklahoma than we do a pure freezing rain ice storm event. Now when we look at the timing of this, you see how the precipitation breaks out here along I-20 out here in western Texas. Probably right around 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, waking its way up to the Red River by 6 and 7 o'clock in the morning. And then here in Oklahoma City, I think by 9. And it might even be earlier. It could be 8 o'clock. We'll look at some of the high-res data. This is a mean average. So we're going to look at some of the higher resolution models that are short-term to get a better timing on this. But I want to show you the take-home here. The purple indicates the sleet on this first round that moves through. Yes, there's going to be a little freezing rain mixed in, especially on the southeastern side. And let me refresh this page so we can get a longer extension of this data to capture the second wave. So that moves off in Arkansas. Look at all that red in Arkansas. I mean, you guys get hammered with the freezing rain event. So big ice storm for you guys. It just does not let up. And that's just nasty for you. And then as we head into Thursday morning is where this data starts to pick up again just after midnight. Regeneration here across Dallas and again northwestern Texas and then back in Oklahoma. This is just the start of this. The data hasn't finished coming in yet, but you get the gist. And you can also see that red is painted into Dallas. So that's why we got a little mixed bag for you guys down there. Oklahoma City, this is how we're going to break things down for you. This is the probability of precipitation of the precipitation type. Take home here is if it's pink, it's sleet. If it's red, it's freezing rain. If it's blue, it's snow. Here in Oklahoma City, what do you see? You see two significant signals here. One in here, one in here. Those are the two waves, main waves of precipitation, and both are in the form of sleet. All right, so that's what I'm saying. For power outages, I really don't see a problem here in Oklahoma City proper. Greater metro area. Once you get a little farther south and east, we'll talk about it here in a second. When we look at the breakdown of the precipitation, the first wave appears to be much stronger and heavier than the second wave. So don't be upset, right? Let's say you've canceled plans, you've closed things, and it's very light. And you say, well, it wasn't very heavy today. This isn't one of those types of storm systems where it's just Katie bar the doors, it doesn't stop, you measure it in feet. It's not going to happen. This is the type of deal where it's the light glaze on the roads and it's total ice rink city. That's what you have to be keep in the back of your mind. So you do see on the average of the precipitation, we're up around 2 to 3 tenths of sleet accumulation here on this first round, and maybe about another tenth or a little less on the secondary round, and we'll look at some of the other data with that. But that kind of breaks down how it's going to look in Oklahoma City, and if you were to total all this up, let's see, where is that right here? On average, it's about 3 tenths, maybe a little bit more of sleet. There's a little bit of tiny bit of freezing rain, a little glaze mixed in here across the metro. If I were to go to other areas, I looked at this earlier, went down to Dallas, same idea, right about roughly the same amount, 3 tenths, but you're mostly freezing rain than you are sleet. Now that's power outage problems, and that's shut down the city problems. I'm going to make it simple for you. Southeastern Oklahoma around McAllister, that's 1/2 inch or more for the mean, for the average, which means there's some members that suggest far more, of course, and there's some that suggest less. Throw the less out. I don't see that. I do see potential for more, though. And this is a little sleet mixed in, but mostly freezing rain from McAllister points down the south and east. So that's kind of how you interpret that data. When we look at it, the timing on how things go, we take a look at the lift in the atmosphere when the colors really start to get cranking. So here's midnight, where you see all the colors. Where are they cranking? You guess western Texas, you win the prize. What happens? It starts to expand north and east here in the overnight hours in Oklahoma, and look what happens by daybreak, 6 o'clock in the morning, a lot of lift here. Now remember, the lift will come before the precipitation. Why? Remember the sounding I showed you? We're bone dry, right? So we still have to moisten things up. We need another 12 hours for that, and this lift will help to kind of squeeze out that moisture. So that's why there may be a slight delay compared to the lift versus the actual precipitation, but it's going to happen, and it will be in the early morning hours. So probably by the time most of you are heading out to work or shortly thereafter, and here in the metro and definitely earlier points south and west, We'll show you the radar of that here in a second. Meanwhile, by mid-morning, it's going nuts. See the purple? That's dangerous. That's heavy stuff. That's lunchtime moving through Tulsa, now into Arkansas. And this first wave moves off in the afternoon, as far as the heavy goes, right? Then it's just light, annoying, little freezing drizzle. You might see a random snowflake mixing. Sometimes weird things can happen as you're squeezing out moisture low levels from Arctic air. But it doesn't really change much. And then we head into the evening hours. See the colors pick right back up. That's more mid-level lift in the atmosphere through Thursday morning. So here's that secondary round coming in, heavy along the I-35 corridor. Starts moving to eastern Oklahoma. Some residual here Thursday morning across central Oklahoma. But the heavy stuff, as you can tell, is now pushed away out of the state. So this secondary round it's kind of misleading because it doesn't come in fast and furious and heavy. It comes in just light and just kind of keeps adding insult to injury, and if you're not paying attention, that's when things get dirty. All right, so that's kind of how we break down the lift situation. And I think, let's see, what's this? Saturday. Saturday we talked about maybe some sprinkles or some light snowflakes with some new lift that comes in, but it's not going to measure or really amount to anything from the earlier data I looked at. We can look at the mid-levels of the atmosphere, the moisture, which really highlights the big explosion for the first round that moves through. So here we go. Tomorrow morning, moving through the state, and then that heavy moisture trail goes right through the I-44 corridor during the afternoon, and then that continues as the secondary round moves in. Here we go. See, northwest Oklahoma's bone dry. See, there's not a whole lot of moisture out here in the mid-level, so you don't expect a whole lot with the storm system. A few flurries, maybe. Some light dusting, snow, that's about it. Let's see, as we head into Thursday afternoon, most of the lift now most of the deeper moisture has pressed off to the east, and that's why the big chunk of the storm system, as far as that round, has moved away, and it's just light, annoying stuff after that. When you do look at the critical 0-degree line Celsius, the line that delineates between freezing rain and sleet, you want to look probably right about here. It's the leading edge of this green zone. So that means along this line you get sleet, and back behind it you get sleet, and then out ahead of it in this region you get the freezing rain. So we put this into motion. Let me clear this. All right, and now let's see. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, we'll step this through. I want you to see how the temperature profile in the atmosphere here at 850 millibars doesn't move a whole lot. And that's why you can confidently say it's sleet for the most part here along the I-44 corridor. And that's why you can say it's mostly freezing rain down there in southeast Oklahoma. Now here is tomorrow morning, Wednesday. Now the cold air did deepen a little bit here toward Lawton and Wichita Falls. So we would have to then redraw this line. So we'll do that from here. This is just west of Dallas, by the way, up through around Tulsa, just east of Tulsa in northwestern tip of Arkansas. All right, so that's in the morning hours. We head into the midday. Let's go lunchtime. You can see how that profile in the atmosphere hasn't really changed much. We're probably a little colder, a little deeper midday Wednesday. Again, that's good news for us. That means, again, all sleet with this. As we head into the afternoon hours, that line kind of creeps back up north and west. You see what it did? And other models are much warmer than this. This is actually one of the colder ones. So what that means is the line that delineates between the two is hugging that I-44 corridor just south, just a little bit south. So it could waver a little bit north and west, which would give us a little bit of that very touch of light freezing rain and freezing drizzle mixed in. But again, it would keep the main bulk of the show south and east. There's Wednesday evening. You can see some areas that just kind of get a little warm. And that does happen in these type of situations where you can get a burst of a precipitation type that changes. And so you can see now I've got to redraw this thing for Wednesday night here. Now back up closer to the metro and closer to Tulsa. That means that freezing rain mixture creep back up to the north and west a little bit. All right, so now let's go back into the morning hours of Thursday as this new round continues to move through. That line hasn't moved. It's right at the edge of Tulsa County, 1 degree Celsius here. On the east side looks like with Norman, so it's right about zero. And let's see, let's go into Thursday lunchtime. So there we go, Thursday lunchtime. Now it's starting to get colder. It's deepening in. So now the cold air is moving through. Why? Because the storm system is starting to move out and the cold air moves in behind it. So that's how you can track a very fine line on precipitation type. Now you will notice down here in Dallas, they never really got very cold. They didn't get that big cool down, which means they end up with more freezing rain than they do sleet. All right, so let's get down to the details here on the timeline for this. I got a lot to show you, and I know there's so much to talk about, so I do appreciate you guys hanging in here with me. It's going to be a longer forecast than most, but trust me, you're not going to get any better weather data anywhere in this market or anywhere in the state than you get right here. You can't get this anywhere else. They don't have the ability to do it, and I do, so I do it for you, and that way we all learn together, and you can see how it breaks down. So here's 6 o'clock in the morning, southern Oklahoma, right on the Red River. So there's all the stuff that comes in. All that purple represents the model indicating for you it's a lot of sleet. Now, here's 7 o'clock in the morning. It's already kind of starting to move in the southwest side of the Oklahoma City metro area. So that's what I'm saying. It's just a race. It's just a race from how quick that lift moves in to the first, raindrop, or I should say sleet drop, occurs. So here's 8 o'clock in the morning, and like I said, during rush hour, drive time, it should be sleeting here, and it should be sleeting quite heavily, especially on the south side of town, out west toward Elk City, even some areas there north of I-40 there in northern Oklahoma. Here's 9 a.m., just nuts out east now on I-40, down south on 35. There might get a little sleet pellets mixed in with this first wave down here in Dallas. That's about it, though. Let's see, as we go into 10 o'clock in the morning, it's now through Tulsa heavy. And you will notice 11 o'clock and lunchtime, it starts to wind down here as far as the heavy stuff here in Oklahoma City. So it's about a 6-hour window of moderate to heavy sleet, and that can accumulate quite rapidly. So that's why I always have caution when I look at the models and they try to estimate sleet. This is a very difficult thing to measure. It's almost worse than snow, and they do horrible at snow. So I'm not going to have a whole lot of confidence in their sleet factor. We have to kind of go with QPF and precipitable water and do a lot of funky equations of math, and we try to get a best guess. Bottom line is, when you have a 6-hour window of precipitation, you're going to at least get, with the lift that we have, 3/10, 4/10, maybe even half an inch of sleet is not out of the question. All right, so anyway, so that continues there in eastern Oklahoma for the afternoon. You can see that the trend here in the model is to kind of lighten it with time as most of that heavier lift moves away. Now, what we have here on the map, it looks like it's pretty quiet, right? Southeast Oklahoma, they'll still getting some stuff by tomorrow afternoon, 5 o'clock. But we still have cloud cover. We're going to have occasional little mist that comes down. And I can show you what that looks like in the vertical here in a second. But as we head into Wednesday night, the secondary round is already starting. Now, the models do put some snowflakes in here where it's really dry or colder in this deeper, colder air up north. So here's midnight. We've already got the new development down here south. And I'm going to show you North Texas in a close-up view and Arkansas. So hang with me if you guys are out there in Arkansas and Dallas. You want to know what's going on in our neck of the woods on the timing. I'm going to show you here in just a couple of seconds here. Meanwhile, here's Thursday midnight. So there's, again, that snow here in northern Oklahoma, just a dusting. Don't get too excited. Otherwise, we still have this sleet that keeps developing down here in southern Oklahoma, freezing rain here southeast. As we head into the 6 and 7 o'clock time frame, I will caution you that the models are probably a little wrong with the color. This particular one, I think that the freezing rain line will be more north into this area. And then this will be the thin band of sleet with a little bit of tiny freezing rain mixed in, because I think temperatures are going to be just warm enough to get a little bit of a mix here. But definitely more freezing rain down south and east with this. Let's see, so that's 8 o'clock in the morning, 9. Now what you notice different, right, is that it's not as heavy on this particular round as it was the first round, with the exception of southeast Oklahoma. That's still a pretty good heavy signature down there. All right, there's lunchtime, still going in southeast Oklahoma, but very light elsewhere across the state. Now remember, the lift didn't end at the mid-levels, but the strength of it really calmed down. So we're still going to get a little residual, probably drizzle and stuff. Because I said it's going to be real weak at that point in time, but it's not gone completely. But the model will be able to pick up on that in this particular case. Okay, let me show you here real quick. We'll do Oklahoma City first. Okay, so if I show you on a vertical in the atmosphere, remember we live down here at the bottom, the surface. This is up in the mid-levels to the top. This is 25,000 feet up. This is 15,000 feet, etc. So there's all the moisture in the green you see coming down. So plenty of moisture in this first round from Wednesday morning through Wednesday lunchtime. That's where we get the most of our sleet here in Oklahoma City. And this model has about 1/4 to 3/10 is what I've seen in some of the data. I've seen a little bit higher in some others. But that's a good average, at least. So a 1/4 inch of sleet or more here in Oklahoma City. From the south side of town, probably a little bit more, especially down toward Norman. But you notice here, we're trapped. This now, it turns to purple, which is saturated. It's just icing. It's 95% to 100% humidity. But we're trapped in this layer of moisture. So the clouds are there, the moisture is there, and it's Arctic air. You squeeze it out. You keep squeezing out. You don't have to hold a lot of lift, vertical lift in the atmosphere. You keep squeezing out little stuff. So that's what I'm saying. The drizzle may continue off and on. You might get a few flakes of snow, a little bit of sleet here and there. And then the secondary wave here is Thursday morning, because the time goes from right to left, believe it or not, on this deal. So that is, let's see here. I think it only showed like a couple of hundreds for sleet. So yeah, you can see the secondary wave here in Oklahoma City is not that strong. You can see the absence of mid-level moisture here. So it's just a low-level squeezing out event, which is why you really can't get a whole lot of precipitation with that secondary round versus the first round right here, which had all kinds of things going for it. So that's an example in Oklahoma City. Let me show you Tulsa and show you Dallas, and then I'll go back on a flat plane map so you can see what that looks like. Same thing for Tulsa. Your best is mid Wednesday morning for time-wise, so 9, 10 o'clock. And then that continues through the early part of your afternoon, probably 3 o'clock. So there's most of your accumulation with all the lift and the moisture overlaid. After that, still you're locked in like Oklahoma City is with all this moisture. So you're going to keep squeezing stuff out off and on. And your secondary round looks to be a little bit light here on this model. I've seen some others that kind of keep you more in the show for that secondary round on Thursday for a little higher amounts. Regardless, it's the same idea. Sleet with a little bit of mixture of freezing rain for Thursday, whereas you should have mostly sleet for Wednesday. In amounts up here around 3/10 or so in Tulsa, just based off of this one model. And then finally in Dallas-Fort Worth, I want to show you guys what it looks like for you. And you don't have what we have as far as big generation goes. If you notice here in the mid-levels, we don't have all those other things that bring all that moisture way down. You just have this low-level moisture trapped in the Arctic zone. That just keeps squeezing out light stuff. So yours is the sneak attack mode. So you'll get a little bit of sleet, like I said, mentioned probably Wednesday, late morning, noontime, a few little bit of sleet, nothing bad. But it won't take much, of course, to cause problems on bridges, overpasses. And then you're going to have the little light freezing drizzle kick in, and that will continue. And I think the models give you guys about 3/10 overall of ice accumulations, and it takes about a quarter for power outages, especially add a little wind in there. So Dallas, you're going to be hurting for this event, and that'll wrap up by Thursday late afternoon. Then your weather will improve, and we can take a look at that here on a flat dimensional plane. So let's do that here for you real quick. This is being generically speaking, of course. There's 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. We've got the rain mixture here in North Texas, Northeast Texas. Otherwise, you got that big sleet storm going out west of you. It's for the first round that kind of moves through. And you still have that residual stuff there in the afternoon we talked about. So here's Wednesday evening. Now you see the red. Remember that warm air that kind of kept trying to come back in at 850 millibars? That affects you guys down here as well, overriding that colder air at the surface below it. So you get that mixture of sleet and freezing rain. And I think it'll be more freezing rain than it will be sleet here for Wednesday night. You can see the models are fighting which way to change the precipitation type. So that's what's going to happen down there through 6. There's 7. There's 8 o'clock in the morning Thursday. It'll be a nightmare. The whole city will be shut down. Let's see. There's lunchtime on Thursday. Then there's the afternoon. So obviously, if you guys are trying to travel out of Oklahoma through North Texas, this is what you're going to run into. So it's another reason why I'm showing you this map. Then by 4 o'clock Thursday afternoon, look at that. It's finally clearing out, moving away. So that's the issues going on down there. All right. Arkansas, you guys. Let's take a look here too. So here's your big batch of sleet that moves in. Here's 11 o'clock in the morning out here in northwestern Arkansas, moving through by lunchtime. Very heavy at that. Now the models are going to have some tough times, and I think it will be sleet mostly for this first leading edge of the wave, but it will be changing over to freezing rain more so for the rest of the event. So there's Wednesday afternoon, moving through Little Rock, etc., to Jonesboro, and this is pretty much all freezing rain at this point. It just keeps coming. I mean, you guys are so in the bullseye zone of this nonsense. So there's Thursday evening. I'll go to Thursday night. You notice how it's trying to put in some rain. It's actually trying to warm it up enough to produce rain. That won't happen. It'll still be the freezing rain variety, and that's all the way up through Thursday, and then that finally moves off Thursday night. So that takes care of you on your timeline. Okay, so what we're going to do is look at a couple of the estimates for the ice, and we'll show you that this I-44 corridor for measurable freezing rain just comes into Tulsa and Oklahoma City down the line by just a couple of hundredths. Again, it's kind of like a glazing of measurable freezing rain and the freezing drizzle combination. But as you travel more and more south from this boundary, that is where the freezing rain accumulations start to come up. and they start to become more significant. And these totals are wrong, so I'm going to show you a different model for the actual totals. I'm going to show you this for the boundary of the freezing rain that continues all the way down south here into Texas. That's North Texas and Dallas, and out here in the west as well. Whereas, because most of this, as we mentioned in this quadrant, is going to be mostly sleet measured. If we look at the European data, the good news for it is that it keeps coming down overall in the amounts, which is a good sign to see here along the I-44 corridor, although we kind of expected that for the freezing rain, so it's kind of catching on. It's going to realize there's more sleet mixed in, but it's still a little high, I think, for like what we would call an ice total for just the liquid freezing raindrop size. But what I like for this model is not so much that, but down here, McAllister, down toward maybe Ardmore, Durant, in this region here to Fort Smith. I think this is the bullseye where you're going to have half an inch or more of freezing rain, which is going to cause, when I say half an inch or more, I'm talking you could have 3/4 of an inch of freezing rain. That's a lot of ice, it's a lot of weight, power lines and trees, so that's going to be a problem there. So let's move on from there. By the way, you can see it, that's a glazing of ice down here in Dallas as well. All right, so let's go to the snow. Not a big snowstorm at all. Like I said, some flurries and light dusting at most, so it's not even worth talking about. I was looking at this, the German model. It's been pretty consistent on what its output was showing, and this will tell us a couple of things. Now, it's not going to know to paint colors on the map. It's going to just have precipitation. But what it does is it shows that big flare up here over the body of the state for Wednesday morning. So it does go nuts with the lift, which I like the idea of. Obviously, it does try to produce some snow in the northern fringe, and that might be partially correct. But it's going to be light. And then as we head into the Wednesday afternoon frame, you can see how it's just going crazy over Arkansas. And this, where you get these brighter colors, that just indicates some super heavy freezing rain. That you're talking an inch or more of ice accumulations out there. So that's catastrophic. All right, so that moves off. And then we have that secondary round Thursday morning. A little bit light dusting snow up here northwest, but you can see the light precipitation breaking out here across the state. Not nearly as heavy of a signal. That's the take home with this here in central and really northeast Oklahoma. But southern and southeast Oklahoma down to Dallas, that's where your heavy signal is for that secondary round. That again moves into Arkansas and then points north and east from there. But it's a quick mover. By Thursday afternoon, that moderate stuff is out of the state. And the precipitation amounts for this, as we measure these through, let's go through Saturday or through Friday. Here we go, through Friday. This little dark area here in Oklahoma City is about half an inch. Same thing for Tulsa. This dark area of green is half an inch. And then up here in the blue colors goes on the scale of anywhere from 1/2 to about 1 inch of precipitation out here in eastern Oklahoma. And that's why, again, since it's going to be mostly freezing rain in this area, that's your travel trouble spot and your power trouble spot and everything else. And you can see that extends right through central northern Arkansas for ice accumulation. So this is a pretty bad ice storm. I want to say it's a glancing blow for Oklahoma, but as far as statewide goes, you would almost have to look at it that way with things much worse just east. Okay, so let's go with temperatures. If you haven't noticed, it's cold. Let's see what happens here as we go through time. So tomorrow morning, we'll drop into the teens. This is an important point to bring home. When you have air temperatures into the teens, it will offset any amount of warmth you have for the roadways. Does not matter. It will freeze like that and you're done. So the best thing you could hope for it would be when the sleet first starts to fall, you have 20 minutes maybe where it kind of melts and it's not quite frozen yet, and that's just a prayer, Hail Mary at that point. Because honestly, I wouldn't even bet on that. But let's just say you get 20 minutes of lead time. Hurry up and get home. That's about the best I could even promise you, and that's not even a promise. So what I'm telling you is, once it happens, this atmosphere is not good for it to melt or go away or dissolve or anything. All right, so there's 9 o'clock in the morning. We're to the teens across the state. Here's the afternoon, teens across the state. There's some 20s maybe for lucky. 5 o'clock, so it's just a nasty day overall. We'll get to the winds and the wind chills here in a second. Thursday morning, we'll start you off into the teens with that secondary round. Now, we'll rebound a little bit in the afternoon when that heavier stuff moves away and things start to dry out by late day, sort of in the upper 20s maybe. And then we're back into the teens again, maybe in some single digits sneaking in here by Friday morning. We talked about the winds. As with most winter storms, you do get a little bit of wind with it, so let's start with that. So now I've got a wind right now of 20 miles per hour, so there's been a little bit of gusts higher than that. So the models do suggest some gusts possibly up to around 30 overnight tonight. As they head into tomorrow, same idea. There's a big wave of wind with that first round. I mean, look at that, gust of 30 or 40 miles per hour. Remember, any wind you get will cause some problems with the power if you have the ice accumulation. That's what we're mainly talking about. As we head into the afternoon, the winds do calm down a little bit, so that is some good news since we will have some accumulation down there in southeast Oklahoma. And let's see, let's head into the evening hours. Winds so far behaving. These are wind gusts, by the way, which means that the sustained winds will be much lower, but it's the gusts you got to watch out for. Let's see. So there's Thursday night overnight with that new wave coming through. It does pick up pockets of wind, you see, around 20 or so into Thursday morning, but it's not nearly as strong or widespread like it is on Wednesday, which is good because we're going to have much more accumulating ice, especially down here in southern and southeast Oklahoma. So if you have a very light wind, that will help offset the power outage problem issue. Now the winds do pick up a bit on the back side of the system as it moves overhead on Thursday evening. So then you get a kind of another round of power outage that will occur because of this outcome. And this is Thursday night around 8, 9 o'clock. And look at those winds pick up as the system departs. So quite a bit windy at that point, and that will help to knock out a bunch of power with the ice that's going to be on the lines by that point in time. So it's kind of like you got good news and bad news mixed in with all this. For the further bad news, let's take a look at the wind chill values. Overnight tonight to the single digits. Will be below 0 tomorrow, so bundle up if you're going to be outdoors any length of time. We will get a little bit of rebound when those winds calm down a hair. Otherwise, wind chill values in single digits for tomorrow. And then on Friday, or excuse me, that was Wednesday. And then Thursday, not as bad. Wind chill values into the teens. And then with the winds picking up, they'll probably drop into single digits again to near 0 by Friday morning. Okay, anything else? Yep, here's your temperature forecast. Obviously cold into the teens here for the next several nights. The daytime highs, 34 is in question, and even 30. Models do terrible at Arctic air. They always underestimate, and they always have the warm-up too quick. So these numbers here, I'd probably shave a few degrees off of each of them. Now, Sunday potential is there. That could be okay. We'll see. And then the rest of it looks good for now. I have not looked beyond for the extended outlook just because too busy dealing with everything else. All right, so let's go to my website, AaronTuttleWeather.com. I've been doing this for a while now because it helps because I get a lot of these questions. You go to the weather data tab, you click on multi-state road conditions, and I show you the ground temperatures there for the mesonet, and you have the Oklahoma City snow route, should we get some snow. On this map, you'll see cameras that'll pop up with the roads being closed or open. You can click on that to see real time how conditions look. Here you can click on these little camera video icons to get real-time video for traffic. Now that's in Oklahoma. Same thing for Kansas. You can do the same thing up there, although you guys won't have really much problems up there. I've got Missouri now on here, so you can pull up the same thing for Missouri. So southern Missouri will likely have some trouble. And then you can do the same thing for Texas, and you can click on here and add the traffic cameras and click on those. And then finally, I've got a link for you can go to Arkansas as well. And then same kind of idea, you click on the camera networks, and that way if you're wondering how road conditions look in your area, if you really have to try to get out, that'll be your answer. And you can click anywhere across the state. So if you're trying to travel somewhere, you can click from A to B and see if it's even worth it, right? Obviously, I'm going to tell you it's probably not worth it, but that's just me. Breathe, Aaron. I think I can breathe now. All right, let me go to a few of your questions see if you guys had any, because I had so much to cover. And I tried to cover everybody, and that's why it was a long broadcast, a lot longer than I normally do, believe it or not. Let's see. So, Samuel, man, you're a weather fanatic, Samuel. I saw your question there on YouTube. He's asking about thunder, freezing rain, and thunder sleet. Springfield, Missouri mentioned it. So definitely in Arkansas, you're going to have a lot of that. I guess you might get a taste of it there in southern Missouri. For Oklahoma, if we're going to have that, the best location would be in southeast Oklahoma, where those reflectivity values are a lot higher. Let me load up. Let's see here. Here we go. So that's probably about it. I don't expect it anywhere else across Oklahoma or, say, down in Texas, for example. Let me go to you guys on Facebook, and I just now had to load up. Oh, Catherine, great question. Justin, yeah, ice skating rink in the metro, that's for sure. Okay, so let's show you, because you had a good question. Was that Sarah that asked that? And I meant to show that. Remember, Catherine asked that. Listen, man, it's like, you have no idea. When I go to prepare these things, the amount of stuff I have to look at and to show you is kind of like, well, I have to cut something. Otherwise, I'll be here all night. All right, so let's do this graphic. So let me get you back on my map. Okay. What's the difference between freezing rain and sleet? And I've talked about this in prior broadcasts and had it in my blogs, but it's always good as a refresher recap. Because I show you the sounding, right? Okay, so this is the sounding. Let me just go back to here to the technical side, and let's go to Oklahoma City. All right, now let me go to right this point here. There's Wednesday morning. Okay, so Wednesday morning, I'm going to give you two visuals so you understand this. If we look at the science side, this is your freezing line going all the way up in the atmosphere. If it's to the right, over here, that means this right here is warm air. So when you see the graphic I'm going to show you, when you see the warm air, I want you to think of this right here. When you see the cold air below it, this Arctic air mass down here, it's left of the line. So I'll put a negative for below zero. So what happens is the precipitation that forms all in this region here falls through this layer, which it warms it, which makes it into raindrops. Then as it falls into this layer of the atmosphere at a few thousand feet, it then starts to refreeze on its way down to the surface. As it refreezes on its way down, is there enough cold air here and deep enough to get it to freeze as freezing rain or sleet? If it's really thick and cold, it can go back to sleet. If it's a little thinner, a little shallower, and maybe not as cold, it's freezing rain. And it also has kind of something to do with the temperatures over here on this side as well. There's a top-down precipitation forecast method you can use. I won't get into that because that'd be some of my tricks. Can't give you all my tricks. But let's talk about this. So that's what I'm showing you on the science side. Here's a visual, kind of a cartoonish look, but here's that warm air we talked about. If the warm air is very thick, remember it's all to the right of that freezing line in the atmosphere going up. It's just rain, no big deal. When it falls through that and it is melting, so it's raindrops, then it gets into that cold air below it, then it starts to freeze on contact. And that's the freezing rain that hits just as it hits the surface. In other words, it's a raindrop all the way down, doesn't have time to get solid yet, and then splash freezes. And that's what coats everything in ice. And then as you notice here, in this little section, that warm air is a lot more shallow, and it's not quite as warm. Therefore, it has a chance to refreeze in this colder air. So the colder air is deeper here. You can visualize this little slope. This atmosphere from the surface to this layer is a lot thicker, right, than this layer right here. See, the height is a lot more. So it's got longer time for these raindrops to then solidify in those little dots, those little BBs, which then bounce, and that's the sleet. Now, we're not talking about snow here, but if there was no warm air at all, it would be all snow. So that's one visualization to look at. I'll show you. This is kind of another one here I also like to use. And just the same idea. This warm layer is thinner. This warm layer is thicker. This cold layer here is thicker, and this cold layer is thinner. And so that's how you get the different precipitation types, and that's why you have to draw the line in the sand, like this line right here, as to where you're going to get one or the other, or a mixture of both as it kind of rides along the line. And that's what partially makes the forecast challenging. Okay, so I've got some other things I want to show you since we did talk about graphics here. Measuring ice. This is a good one. How do you measure ice? So for southeast Oklahoma, obviously this is going to really apply to you guys. From the Red River up to McAllister, Fort Smith, and even as you go a little bit closer north toward Tulsa, I just don't think you'll have enough to cause power outages in Tulsa from ice accumulations, but you'll get a little bit. This is how you would measure it. This is a branch that you would see if you were to cut it in half. This is the ice accumulation on here. So you don't measure the branch, of course, but you measure the ice accumulation on both sides of it, and you average them out together. So that's what this is. You take this measurement, and then you divide by 2. And that will give you the ice accumulations here. So in this particular case, we're looking at a 1/2 inch. So it's 1 inch total in thickness, and then you divide by 2 to get 1/2 inch. So when you report it, like to the National Weather Service, you say, I've had 1/2 inch of ice accumulation. And 1/2 inch of ice is an example right here. Let's see, let's see, that's a 1/2 inch there on the ruler, and that's 1 inch. It's hard to say. This might be, looks like there's a weak spot. I'm not sure it's a full inch, but the idea here is what that would kind of look like given that situation. All right, so now let's show you, because that can come into play if you want to report it officially. All right, here's important information. Why do bridges freeze first? There's no ground underneath them. It means the entire structure can be surrounded by cold air. Freezing isn't uniform. Shaded parts can be icy while sunny parts aren't. We won't have that problem here because we're going to have no sun. Obviously, slow down before bridges. The changing speeds on ice is dangerous. You never want to brake on a bridge. You want to brake before you get to the bridge. Now, in this particular case, we're not talking about just bridges and overpasses. Okay, we normally do. That's the given, the go-to. We're talking about widespread, call it black ice if you want. Forms on any road, every road, curbs, drainage areas. More prevalent at night, of course. They can be around during the day, especially during an event like we're having. So this would be kind of more for the melting during the day than refreezing at night situation. And obviously you don't want to drive in this kind of stuff because you have no control in your vehicle. Even if you have four-wheel drive, it won't matter. Snow, no problem. But when you're talking about ice, that's a different story. You're in the whole white knuckle world of please stop, please stop, please stop, please don't hit the curb, please don't hit the car, please don't hit that pedestrian. That's not something you want to be in, trust me. Let me go, let's see, what else? You're going to have to walk. You're going to get out in it. We've done this before. Walk like a penguin. This works better on snow. I'm just going to tell you, ice is just nasty, man. But regardless, the idea is you want to take very small steps. You want to keep your hands outside of your pockets. That's the kind of a key word. Don't keep them in your pockets. Keep your toes pointed out. Keep your knees loose. Don't lock them. Take it slow. And then your center of gravity. All right, so this is the center of gravity of somebody walking. It's completely uniform, both sides, equal weight distribution. That's a no-no. You slip, you fall on your bum. Matter of fact, can you see that? Yeah, you can. And when you do, guess what you do? You put your hand out. What do you do here? You break an arm, you sprain an arm, you hurt your shoulder, etc., etc. So you really need to learn how to fall, which is hard, and that is by not trying to brace your fall. It's just use your whole body to brace your fall. What happens is then you put the force along this area. And once that force hits solidly, if you can fall flat, in other words, then you transfer that force equally through the entire length of your body. Whereas in this particular example, you're obviously going to do it here on your hip. How do you break a hip? There you go. And your secondary area of force is right here on your hand. Sprain your hand, break your wrist, etc. So that's how that can happen poorly. So you want to try to fall on your side, but the whole thing. Just, you know what, if you know you're going down, you're not going to stop it. You just go ahead and embrace it and just go flat. How you can do that, I don't know, unless you're practicing on a mat at home. But that's what you're supposed to do. I know it's easier said than done. So what you really want to do is not fall at all. And what you can do is put your center of gravity forward. So you're going to lean forward as you walk, like the penguin idea. And that will help you a little bit for more stability. This was a big hit graphic. We had our last little bit of ice. So I want to tell you about that. All right, so that was my work saying closed. Yeah, I know that. Welcome to the party. Guys are a little late. Let's see. What else I want to show you? Hypothermia. Okay. You're going to be outdoors. You're stuck. You have to deal. He said, Aaron, I'm so glad you get to stay indoors, all that heat and power, but I can't. All right. Well, you got to dress for extreme cold. How do you do it? 3 layers. 1 insulating layer. Gloves, obviously. Under, I guess thermal underwear if you got it, hopefully. And then a layer on top of that, and then your coat, jacket, same thing for your lower half of your body. Boots, waterproof, nice thermal socks, and keep the wind off of you. Face mask, well, that's not hard to do in today's COVID era. Bring out that old nasty COVID mask with all that bacteria and phlegm on it and put that back on your face. The good news is it'll be frozen, so it won't be contagious, and you won't breathe it back in. And wear the warm hat. Obviously, I'd get a new mask, or just don't even wear that. Get actually a real face mask you can wear to stay warm, and a little hat to keep you warm as well. All right, so let me see what else we got, because that will keep you out of this situation. So let's do that. All right, I'm going to zoom in, because this is a lot on this map. All right, hypothermia and frostbite. How do you spot it? Let's zoom that in as well. All right, I got an example here. So you're unaware of frostbite because frozen tissue is numb. You don't even realize it. So redness or pain in any skin area may be the first signs. White or grayish yellow skin area, skin that feels unusually firm or waxy, numbness, that would be signs of frostbite. Hypothermia can occur at very cold temperatures, but often at cool temperatures even, believe it or not. If a person is wet from rain, sweat, or cold weather and becomes chilled. So your signs are, for adults, shivering, exhaustion, confusion, fumbling hands, memory loss, slurred speech, drowsiness. Infants, bright red, cold skin, very low energy. Just don't have an infant out there in this weather. If so, you need to be paid a visit. Void. When the weather is extremely cold, try to stay indoors. If you must go outside, dress properly. We talked about that. So scarf, knit, hat, weather-resistant clothing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now let's see what else we got. Who is at risk? Older adults without proper food, clothing, or heating, people who stay outdoors for too long, homeless, hikers, hunters, etc., workers, people who drink excessive alcohol, illicit drugs, and babies sleeping in cold rooms. Believe it or not. That's why they probably brought up the whole 40-degree deal, just in case it's cold in the home. All right, so treat. If a person experiences hypothermia or frostbite, what do you do? Number 1, seek medical attention as soon as possible. Number 2, get them into a warm room or shelter. Number 3, remove any wet clothing. Number 4, warm them under dry layers of blankets and clothing. Number 5, place areas affected by frostbite in warm to touch water. Notice that it does not say hot. I think that was an old myth or misnomer, and people would do that. So you don't do that, because then you damage the skin further, and you won't know it because your skin's numb, right? Okay, so you won't have that pain reaction rejection. All right, so let's see. Frostbite caution. Since skin may be numb, victims of frostbite can harm themselves further. So use caution when treating frostbite. Unless necessary, do not walk on feet or toes with frostbite. Do not use a fireplace, heat, lamp radiator, or stove for warming. I know that's counterintuitive. I think when I was a kid we did it, but I don't think I had frostbite. I think I just had really cold hands and feet. Do not use a heating pad or electric blanket for warming. Again, these are things that you would think that's what you want to do. Trust me, because that's what I thought I wanted to do. Do not rub or massage areas with frostbite. And if it's black, you're probably already in trouble, just to let you know. That's the graphic shows. If your skin is already turned that way, you might be past the point of no return, which means you got to lose them. So you want to be very careful and get to it fast before you get to that point. All right, any other graphics I have on here that'll shock you, make you wish you didn't know, etc. I think that's enough. I think that's it. I don't think I need to show you anymore. Okay, so let's see here. I'll go back to the comments. So that was a good question, by the way, Catherine. So thanks for doing that. That reminded me to show you guys that. Let's see what else. Okay, so Waylon wants to know, work and home health. What is a better day for road conditions in Oklahoma City, Wednesday or Thursday? Neither. Friday is your day. And if you just have to do it, you have to get out. Use my website, AaronTuttleWeather.com. Go to that road conditions map and look at all the live pictures, all the live cameras, both still cameras and the live video, and you'll find out your answer if you can go, and you'll find out how slow or quickly traffic is moving, and you can watch them drive on it. You can watch a dude already hauling and see how well he does. So that's a great way to do it. Comfort of your home. Don't have to go anywhere. And then once you see what you see and you go, you know what? I think I'm going to give it a shot. Well, then you got to be careful. Make sure I didn't, where's my graphic for that? I had one. I have to find it. It's for what you put in your car. So obviously in your car, you're in a situation, you're off the road, you're in the middle of a ice, sleet storm, whatever, and you can't get somebody to come and help you because no one's around, right, for a while. And you're out of fuel, you can't stay warm, et cetera, et cetera. Make sure you obviously have your thermal blankets in there, something to eat, something to drink, things to charge, phone, et cetera. I believe that's the majority of it. I'll find that graphic later. Gary. Yeah, I don't know how Walmart looks today. That's for sure. I'm sure there are a lot of people that went out there and did something. All right, let me go to Facebook again, and I think I'm just about ready to call it. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate your comment. Oh, so yeah, so schools. Obviously, I'm not the person that makes the school decision, and I'm sure probably some schools have already closed or sent out information, and or they're doing the Zoom thing, virtual school. In my opinion, everyone should just do the virtual school. I mean, if you're going to do it anyway on a non-weather day for COVID for 2 years, and you don't do it when the city's covered in ice, there's a logic part of the brain that's missing in that. So, in my opinion, just do the virtual school if you can do it. But anyway, I'm sure someone will make the decision in the morning and see how things are looking. I do not make those calls. Let's see. From what I understand, freezing rain sticks to everything, causes down lines, trees, etc. Sleet can make the road slick, but isn't quite as bad as freezing rain. Brittany, yes, that is correct. When it comes to power outages, freezing rain is obviously the worst. Sleet does not cause power outages, but it does cause travel problems. So that's a good point to make. Grapple, Julie wanted to know. So I did that. Hopefully you saw the graphics that I did. Grapple is so what happens is you can have, you had that transition in the graphic I had from rain to freezing rain to sleet. Well, you do have a transition from sleet to snow. And it's a similar type process, but not quite. So what happens is grapple is a snowflake that comes all the way down, but the air near the bottom where we live is just a little warm. And so what happens is the snowflake starts to melt and starts to do this. But it hasn't had time to melt back into a raindrop. So the phase shift hasn't completely commenced. So what happens is then you get little bitty white baby snowballs. And that's grapple. So that's the difference there. Whereas sleet is clear, see-through. It's just ice, like little ice pellets. This would be like the Dippin' Dots, ice you'd get, or I don't know, something of that nature. John says, bro, you make this complicated stuff very understandable. Mark's a great teacher. Thanks, brother. You got it. Thank you for watching, and I appreciate your support. Let's see. We know the penguin walk quite well here in North Dakota. Freehand. I bet you do. You can keep that North Dakota weather, by the way. You don't have to bring it down here. This Cali girl is not fond of the cold. I get you. It's funny, as I tell Jody, I said, you like your taste of Canada today? And tomorrow, you get it for a few days and it's gone. Let's see. Let me keep going down. I can only see the last few comments, by the way, on Facebook. It doesn't show me everybody. So if you had something to ask me or to say, I won't be able to see, but it's just the last, I think, 20 or so, and it cuts it off. Bordier. I walked in a crest and walked right back out. That's hilarious. I don't blame you. Denise, just able to join. Other weathermen are saying it has changed to more precip. Is that what you are seeing? I can't even believe that you would watch other weathermen. I'm so heartbroken right now that I can't even continue. I'm going to have to sign off. I work so hard just to be slammed. All right, so I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what they're saying because I've been on the air for almost an hour now. So I don't know. We looked at all the data here. So if you missed it, you have to catch the replay. I'll give you a little recap here in a second, but it's going to be a really short, like 30-second with no bells and whistles. Let's see. Will they all be gone on Friday? No. But some of it will be. And roads will probably... The treated ones obviously will be okay or good. But all the side streets and everything else... I don't know, man. It's tough to say when we finally improve on these type of situations. Just prepared for Wednesday and Thursday being gross, and some of you Friday afternoon getting out and about. That's usually kind of the way it works. You just got to play it by ear. Let's see. Should we be prepared to work from Peru, Oklahoma to downtown Tulsa? That's all I wanted to know. Brandy. Yeah. You have fun with it. It's Ashley, I see your 13-year-old is smart. I like that. Dee Dee, a bit of a deep freeze. Yep. Bill, I don't know. I think they're going through Tennessee and Missouri, etc. I don't know when they're going through that area. I do know they'll have trouble when they get to D.C. They've already closed all those roads down. So it's not like the Canada convoy. They rolled right into town. But that didn't go very well, did it? Thank you, Stephanie. Let's see. Ada. Tanya wants to know. Ada better buckle down. Guys got a freezing rainstorm coming. You bet, Melanie. Blood, sweat, and tears indeed. I got some sweat going on right now. I'm in my AT's weather hoodie. And it's 72 degrees in here from all the studio lights and all the computers, and I'm dying. I'm like sweating over here. You can see it's glazing on my face. Michael, yeah, you'll definitely get hammered. I don't know where you live, but there's going to be some people get hammered. Sarah, then what? Half an inch of sleet in Oklahoma City Metro over 2 days. Where are you at, and what did they say? I don't know what's happening. I missed something. Okay, so let me see. All right, so let's do a quick recap, and then we're probably going to get out of here. Ashley. Hey, call like to see it. 13-year-old, smart kid. All right, let's see. I don't watch the news, Gary, believe it or not. I'm going to shock a lot of you. Are you ready to be shocked? Remember, I worked in news for 12 years. I will give you a hint. You know how if you have a job and you do it 8 hours a day, you don't want to bring it home with you. Like, for example, my dad was a contractor. So he'd fix everybody else's houses. When he got back to his, that'll wait. That'll keep, right? But he was good. He'd get around to over the weekend and he'd put me to work and I'd do it. That's okay. I learned. But, you know, it's that kind of idea, right? Well, in news, I had 12 years of that nonsense and I couldn't wait when it was over. It's like, psh, see ya. You guys have no idea. I'm telling you. Honestly, it is such a colossal waste of time. There's so many things you can do with that time, half an hour. Now, I have always told you to make the most of it by rebuilding your relationship at home. Don't use it on social media. Use that 30 minutes where you're both sitting in bed and you're checking out before you go to sleep. Turn it off. Lean over the other one and say, baby, I love you. Have I told you today how good you looked? Did I tell you how you remind me of this, that, and the other? Why don't you get underneath these covers over here? So I would suggest you use that time more along that lines, and it will work out way better for any 30-minute news broadcast. So that's just my 2 cents. And then if you want the weather, just use my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It's free. It'll give you all your daily, weekly weather information. It's all you need to know. And then when it comes to the big events like tornadoes and winter storms and talking about the latest data and what's coming our way and you want to get all amped up and excited about that kind of stuff, then watch me for that and I'll break it down for you. But there you go. So Amy says on YouTube, I gotta do this recap, but let me do that here. But yeah, Truth Social, will we see you on there? All right, so there are so many social media platforms now. And I get it. Everybody wants one because of this, that, and the other. And that's fine. Whatever. Wherever you guys go, I'm going to try to reach you, right? I don't care. It's not a political thing for me. So it doesn't matter. You guys interested in weather? I provide weather. So I'll go where you go. But I got to tell you something. Every platform you go to, and I understand the whole Facebook frustration and Twitter and the dominant ones. I get that too. All right. So I understand that because I see it, whatever. I'm not going to get into all that details. What I'm going to tell you is, unfortunately, I've talked about this before, so this is anything new for those of you folks that watch me a lot, but if wherever you go, that alternative media platform is on the App Store, if it's on an Apple or Google Play, it is not what you think it is. It is not free speech. It will be censored to some degree. How much it is censored depends on Apple and Google. And you say, well, shouldn't that platform be the one that censors it? You would think, but they have to answer to Apple and Google due to their terms of service. And if Apple says jump, they have to say how high. Now, why? Because they want to stay on the App Store. So the whole thing's a racket. Apple and Google run it, and they're the boss. Everybody has to answer to someone, right? Well, everybody answers to those two. So if they don't like the content on whatever platform it is, I don't care what it is, you can name a dozen of them out there, and if you'll get booted or banned from that platform because they said so. If they don't, then they get deplatformed, and they can no longer have their app on the Play stores. That's a death blow a lot of times in this modern era for like apps on your phone and stuff, and so they don't want to do that because they want it to be able to be shared. So I only tell you that just because, yeah, if I might join Truth Social, it's like a gold rush, right? There's so many places. I got to put my business out there on all of them. Whether or not I use it, I don't know. I'm on a couple right now. I don't even use it, but I've got a place, right? So Sovereign is one with Ben Swan. I like Ben from a long time ago. Worked in TV together. So he started Sovereign, so I went ahead and created one there, but I'm not doing anything with it. It's just a placeholder, in case that platform takes off and people go to that. Well, then I'm ready to go. So that's kind of how I look at it. So Truth Social, I'll probably do the same. It looks like it's probably more of a political platform, and I do weather. So I'm not sure if that's a good fit for me, but I'll check it out. But I'm like everything. Like right now, Gab is what I'm on because that is a non-political, that's just an all-encompassing platform, and they're not on the app stores. So they went through all that. They got booted. So they know what that's like. So they had to do everything in-house, their own servers, everything. They're not on the clouds. So they had to do it the hard way, expensive way, the slow way. But at least if you want true uncensored, whatever, you can go to there. But again, if people start flocking to that, I've got a placeholder to do weather there, so you can find me there. So I'll be around. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm going to try to reach as many of you as I can and across as many platforms that I've got bandwidth for. So we'll see how that goes. But that's a long answer to your question. So I hope it does great. Like most of these, I think more competition's the better. Politics aside, I think competition's always good. And may the best man, woman win in this particular case of these platforms. All right, so recap. Let me do that, and then I'm going to sign off because I have to go eat dinner again. Let me show you one page. Load it up here. I will pull in. I just want to see what the GFS model did here real quick since I didn't see it earlier. All right, same thing. No change, no big deal. All right, it's not a high resolution data model, so it's more of a smooth approach. So I'll go with the higher res data. Okay, so let me get to deal here. All right, so you see down south, by 6 o'clock in the morning, we already have a big wave of sleet that moves through northwest and northern Texas across Red River on into southern Oklahoma, and by 7 and 8 o'clock, whoa, get back in there. By 7 o'clock, it's already moved its way into parts of the metro. It gets heavier as we go from 7 to 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Moves into northern Oklahoma, heads into Tulsa. So for your morning commute, it's going to be messy all over central Oklahoma, points south and then east, northeast into Tulsa, especially mid-morning to afternoon as that first wave moves off. And it kind of residual stuff continues in the afternoon, especially east. And this is all a mixture of sleet and then some freezing rain down southeast Oklahoma. And as we head into overnight Wednesday night into Thursday morning, the next round picks up, not as heavy as the first round, and the same idea, sleet here with some freezing rain mixed in down south and east of the I-44 corridor, freezing rain all the way down to Dallas, and then an ice storm to just nastiness over there in Arkansas. See, there's 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, so another morning rush hour mess here for pretty much the state, with the exception of north and west. You get a little bit of light snow drifting by to the north, but no big deal. Thursday afternoon, all the heavy stuff is now pressed out into southeast Oklahoma. It's coming to an end. We'll still have a little bit of light, annoying, either freezing drizzle, a few flakes of snow, maybe a few sleet pebbles off and on from Wednesday night through Thursday, probably late afternoon, just because there's still residual lift in the atmosphere, but it's slowly drying out and slowly ending. So it's not a situation where it's just a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, all at once, and then it's over. It's a first good heavy wave, and then it's kind of a light lull, but just little light stuff, and then it's the secondary wave that comes in, not as heavy as the first, but significant, and they all add up together to produce measurable precipitation. And if you want to break down, I really don't change much from where I drew it the other day, but if you want to look at a line, something like this, this is going to be a majority all freezing rain. Might get a little bit of sleet mixed in this first wave, kind of in this area. Otherwise, it's mostly all freezing rain. And then in this region here, it's going to be mostly sleet that comes through, and measurable sleet at that. So we could have up to half an inch of sleet here in Oklahoma City, and really about the same for Tulsa, right along the I-44 corridor. And then here you might have a little bit more just south, like Norman, because the models really loved, kind of overlaid this spot here for really heavy sleet accumulations, maybe like 7/10 or something like that. But regardless, you get a little bit south of that band and it's freezing rain, and down here freezing rain is some of the amounts will be half an inch of, this is ice accumulations on elevated surfaces, to maybe 0.75, 3/4 of an inch of ice. So that's where the heaviest ice accumulations will be. So that will cause some significant power outages as well. Here at Oklahoma City and Tulsa, any power outages we get is just your standard typical outages that happen any other given time or event, where the wind blows at all, or or a power line goes down for somebody hits it, or the grid takes a little bit of a hit because of more people using it. That would be the only reason I would think there'd be any power issues here in Oklahoma City or Tulsa. Whereas the weather related, as far as ice, the weight of ice on lines and trees, should be here in the red zone from about Muskogee down to Pauls Valley, Paoli, something like that, down to probably just south to Lawton, Wichita Falls, and then south to Dallas from there. So Dallas should be a mess as well, with freezing rain accumulation sneaking up on them. 0.3 of an inch, probably of precipitation overall of ice accumulation. Not sleet, but actual freezing rain. So that's a mess for them with power outages. So there you go. There's your quick recap of this event. Very short, without all the other details which you missed if you didn't watch. So you gotta watch if you want to know everything. We covered a lot of stuff, a lot of cool things to teach you on. Okay, so that was it for me. We covered all the weather, we covered news, we covered politics, we covered alternate social media platforms. That was all unexpected. That's okay, because I do get asked those questions a lot. And that's it. So from here on out, when you get up in the morning, be careful. If you must go to work, you have to get out. Like I said, go to my website, aarontuttle.com. Look at the live road conditions on my road conditions tab under the weather data section. You can pull up my app, AT's Weather to Go. You can track the precipitation area, and it'll color code as best it can. It's always fuzzy math when the radar tries to color code it from rain to freezing rain to sleet to snow. It changes the colors. It does a decent job, but it's not going to be flawless. You just can't do it. But that'll show the precipitation type moving through in the heavy areas, so at least you'll know where it is, and then you go from there. Anything you do, remember, you got to think not only about yourself, In other words, you think you got it. What about those other 10 people around you? Are you confident that they got it? Because that's the problem. That's what you got to watch for. And driving on ice is never fun. Okay, that's it for me. I can't think of anything else to tell you. I've covered everything till I'm blue in the face, literally, and I think I'm out. So I will be around tomorrow. We'll do a live around lunchtime. Yeah, about 11:30 or so. Look for me there, and we'll see how things look. We'll do live check on the radar, live look outside. We'll take a look at temperatures, everything that's going on in the storm. We'll see if the day has changed at all, to see if amounts are going up or down, if the second wave is any stronger or lighter, all that kind of stuff. But I don't expect much significant change. It hasn't really changed much in the last few days since we've been talking about this in more detail. So that's good. That means the forecast is pretty solid. And it is what it is. Okay, guys, be safe. Thanks for watching, your support, the love, the stars, the sharing, the joining the fan subscriptions, all of it. Can't do it without you. All right, take care. See you tomorrow.